Hi there, I'm Isan Ali A. Shaw, and you're watching me on YouTube and Facebook Live. Today we are going to talk about could emotional intelligence shift the balance of power in a male dominance world? And when we talk about emotional intelligence comprises of four parts: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Self-awareness is about knowing yourself, knowing your emotions and your feelings. And self-management is about controlling and handling your emotions. How better could you handle your emotions? And the third is social awareness. Social awareness is about empathy. And there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. Empathy means you put yourself in the shoes of the other person and know the feelings and what the other person is going through. And the fourth is relationship management. Uh, Relationship management is about combining all of above three these skills, the social awareness, self-awareness, and relationship awareness is putting them together and applying it, implementing it in the relationship. And that's what emotional intelligence is all about. And today we are going to talk about emotional intelligence in a male dominated world. And we are going to have a table discussion. And I'm going to introduce you without wasting any more time to my guests one by one. I've got four guests. My first guest is Gary Merck. He has joined us from Alberta, Canada. Hi, Gary.
How's everybody tonight?
And my second guest is Jackie McGraw. She has joined us from Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia. Hi,
Hi
Jackie.
everyone. Hello. Pleasure to be
Hello,
here.
Jackie.
Hello.
And my fourth guest is Stephanie Ewing. She has joined us from USA, United States. And I think we should, yes, she is back now. Hi,
Oh,
Stephanie.
there we go, Stephanie.
There I go.
Hi
I
Stephanie.
just had to go
Uh,
outside.
okay, yeah. And I think, Gary, I think we should get started. And yeah, Edwin is also saying hi. You can see his comment here. Mhm. Mhm.
There we go. I
So
had to move
once we get
outside.
everybody,
Mhm. Okay. Gary, are you ready? Should we go?
yeah, I'm ready. Have you got this posted? I'm just checking to see right now if it's showing up on the group. Did you get it posted out on
Mhm.
the group?
Yeah, yes, it is already been posted. I'm going directly live in the group. I'm going directly live in the group.
Okay.
And yeah, if you guys, can
There
you,
we go.
all of you
There we go.
guys are very, okay. What do you think? I think we should start with the basic questions about male dominance world. And I'll start with Jackie.
Okay.
What are your what about in Australia? Uh, uh, Australia has also the male dominance society, just like everywhere else, or is it different there?
I think they like to think they're dominating.
Okay. Yeah, I knew we were going to open up Pandora's box.
um, Look, it kind of is still the equality factor, but I have to admire men for and women because we've come through this separation, of
Mhm.
just through the ages, different things change, and somehow we're pushed. One or other gender is pushed to be above the other in some way, or not equal, or seem to be equal, you know, especially with pay and the way you're treated and things like that. But and then of course it changed to, you know, push for equality, and then women became something else, and it just led to a lot of confusion between men and women, I think, of where we sat, and, you know,
But
not
you,
being.
Jackie, I would like to ask you. You said women became something else. What do you mean by that?
I think we sort of saw ourselves as, oh, we couldn't be at home nurturing anymore. You know, being the nurturers, we were now like career driven, and you know, and that's a lot of that was government. You know, at one time we were taught, oh, we want our women to stay at home, and we'll make sure that it's available to everyone. You know, financially to stay at home and be with the children, and stay at home and nurture our children and be with them, which is such an important thing. And then we were told, like, you know, then all the childcare was brought into it, and we'll pay for childcare so that you can get out and work and stuff like that, and fulfill your careers and things like that, which is a great thing for us to be able to, you know, think that, not feel guilty as well. But I think it shifted a little bit the other way, and everyone got a little bit confused about it, if that makes a little bit of sense.
What about okay? I'm gonna ask these questions to Gary.
Me.
Yes,
Is
yes.
it more instilled the male dominance in the sense of, you know, how men see themselves here in North America?
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, it's still pretty strong. I mean, but it's strong in
mm-hmm,
what mannerism? I mean, it depends on
mm-hmm,
what perspective we're looking from it. You know, up here in
mm-hmm,
Canada, we, you know, it you know, saying it from one country to the another, is that there a major difference from one to the other? I don't really truly think so. I think men around the world are being faced with a lot of things. And, you know, is it still in a male dominated control? Well, yes. I mean, it's denominating, you know, predominantly more men we're finding in certain, you know, aspects of certain workforces, but we're seeing more and more women coming into these workforces as well. I mean, you know, 20
mm-hmm,
years ago, you wouldn't have seen a woman doing welding. Okay. You wouldn't seen a woman
mm-hmm,
up, you know, working up on a skyscraper either, you know, and nor would
mm-hmm,
you have seen them in the military. So there's been more
mm-hmm,
acceptance of this over the years into this, you know, that we can each do each other's job, but there's still a lot of resistance in many ways. You know,
mm-hmm,
and even myself, you know, as a man feeling male dominance. I mean, I felt that, you know, through a lot of my careers and, you know, different places where I worked, where, you know, there was a dominating male figure that figured, you know, his ego was bigger than anything else rather than being more human, you know. Uh,
mm-hmm,
you know, and to males that are sensitive, or those that are like myself that are very in tune with our vulnerabilities and our sensitivities in our emotional self, we embrace that emotional self of ourselves. And this is where the emotional intelligence comes in. I consider myself into, yes, I have great emotional intelligence because I can feel what's going on with my emotions, for one, and I live it freely. Okay. But a lot of us men don't, because we've been programmed to not share emotion. So many of us don't even know how to work with emotion. So in the
mm-hmm,
dominance where we are in a workforce, we come back to strength, and, you know, like being boastful and being dominating and controlling and overbearing, because we know that if we raise our voices, many people are going to cower, especially if we're the superior or the owner of the company. You know, it's like, God forbid, the owner of the
mm-hmm,
company screams at you, how many of us cower? You know, it's like, yeah, please don't
mm-hmm.
scream at me. You know, it's like, I need my
Okay.
paycheck. You know, there's this side of it too, and I think that that happens with ladies as well. You know, it's like, if your boss is over dominating over top of you in the sense that there is no emotional intelligence, they're just using fear because they know you need a paycheck. Okay. And,
Mm-hmm,
you know, where I also grew up, where, you know, the mother was at home, and, you know, the father was out in the workforce. I mean, I also grew with that change. It sort of shifted. You know, the inflation went up. The consumerism started becoming more costly. Food was becoming more costly. Buying a home 40 years ago, buying a home today, you know, it's like there's a big spread there. Okay. And this forcing, or not, I guess you could say forcing, where now it's not just one person as in the couple in the relationship with children, it's also now both parents are going to work because, well, it costs a lot of money to support children and feed, and the schooling system and all of everything else that we have to pay on top of it. So
Mhm.
we've lost this connection from my perspective of, where is the interaction between the true essence of male and female in a relationship, or you yourself as a relationship in your professionalism or your relationship with self. And
Mhm.
seeing more from my perspective, where I allow women to come in, like, you want to learn what I'm doing, have at it. Here, I'll show you how to use the power tools. Just don't cut your fingers off, because they're gonna feel guilty, right? Okay, so that's kind of where I see it from here in Canada. Now that's only my perspective, of course. um,
Mhm. I
but I'm
think
very
we should
open.
ask this. I'm gonna go to. I think we should go to America now and
Yes.
ask these questions to Stephanie. And is the same social setup there? After that, after Stephanie, then I'm gonna share my views about Asian, about my part, Muslim part of the world,
Okay.
and it's a pretty still a pretty dark, a very dark place. But I'm gonna let Stephanie share her views from America.
Thank you, Hassan.
Um,
Mhm,
see, America, well, we're progressing like Canada is being more
mhm,
accepting and stuff, but it's still a very male dominated society, you
mhm,
know.
mhm,
And men are told, you know, you can't show emotions, you can't, you have to be, you don't cry, don't be
mhm,
Mr. Sensitive because, good guys always finish last,
Hmm.
you
mhm,
know.
mhm,
Um, I was the only female in my family unit.
mhm, mhm,
And my father, he was very, you know, he was emotionally intelligent to a
mhm,
point to where he was able to manipulate others, which is like the
mhm,
bad side of emotional
mhm,
intelligence, being able to read people and then use them, against that. But and males do use a lot of that in their relationships, I think, has
mhm,
been my experience.
mhm. Okay,
They
I think
kind of
I'm gonna share
look
my
over this and
views,
go for the jugular.
and mhm, okay, I'm gonna share my views from my part of the world. It is, I think, at least your Australia, Canada, and America, at least people realize the change and they are progressing. On the other hand, in our part of the world, people are going backwards. I don't see any change for the time being. Perhaps there will be any change in the future. And I was very I was I used to be a very aggressive about these things. I used to write a lot. Then I started receiving some. I think I mentioned it earlier in our previous videos that I started receiving threats from the extremist side. Then I had no choice but to stop writing on this issue because those people are very organized, they have the power, resources. On the other hand, they have a very large social network on different social media platforms. On the other hand, I am just a single person. I'm just raising my voice, my vibes, and my voice. But I think that wasn't enough, and collectively, it requires a collective effort from the society and from everyone to share their part. Only then we would be able to see the change. And yes, you're right, Adrian. Adrian has just a very good comment here. Religion on your part is of the world is stopping progression. Absolutely right. Religion is the main cause of the problem. Uh, and Speaking of religion, now another question is I'm going to pose to this question to all of our guests. Question is, could is religion playing its part in a um, is religion playing its part to make the society male dominant?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Who wants to go first on that one?
I will.
Okay.
I'll go first.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Um,
Jack, you go.
Yeah.
You go first. I'll go second, and then we'll give it off to Stephanie. Okay. Well.
okay.
Yeah.
Look, the first thing that came to my mind when you were saying that was
Mhm.
the Vatican and the popes,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's just like it's just all male dominated, and
Mhm.
a lot of male dominance, and I can't see that ever changing unless we
Mhm.
get rid of that sort of aspect of
Mhm.
our society.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, if you think of religion, it's the women worship. In my mind, my opinion, you see mostly women kind of worshipping that kind of thing, and the males,
Mhm.
eh, doing the speeches and the talks and the sermons and
Mhm.
things like that. So
Mhm.
we're still sort of placed under, in a way.
Under under religion.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm. What about Stephanie? Okay, I'm gonna give second uh, to
Go
Stephanie. You
ahead,
should go to
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Um, I noticed that a lot of the Christian religions, the preachers are males. There's very
Mhm.
I've come across maybe two female
Mhm.
preachers my entire life,
Mhm.
and I'm like what 48, 49, something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, that's what I've noticed.
Mhm.
So,
So,
Stephanie, maybe I can ask a question in line with that as well. Is it still pushed within these, in that Christian movement, whether it's, whatever church it is that's there, where the preacher is saying that, women are to be at home and men are to be out in the work, or is that changing well, or is that still sort of somewhat being incited into the religion?
Mhm.
um, I last time I went to a Christian church, that's the way it was. Women were,
Mhm.
had their place in their home, and all of that.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
in my world, everyone's equal.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. I think as before starting my argument, I mentioned that at least your part of the world, in Australia, Canada, and USA, people have realized that this is the problem, and many people have changed, and some people are moving towards change. On the other hand, my part of the world is moving backwards. For the time being, I don't see any change, and I've made some documentaries around about 3 or 4 years ago. I'm gonna share it in the comments later on. That and I've discussed it and showed it in a very with pictures and videos that what is the cause of the problem and how it is impacting it. Or now I'm gonna go to Gary and ask this question: is religion playing its part to make the society male dominant?
I think in many ways, and in fact, even in some of the movements of spiritual leaders, I mean, that's where do we
Mhm.
see, any spiritual leader that's actually a female? I mean, I can talk about,
Mhm.
Mother Teresa and others that, had a
Mhm.
voice, but as a
Mhm.
spiritual leader, no. Okay, that's my
Mhm.
first observation. Whether it's,
Mhm.
a yogi and a guru, okay,
Mhm.
so-called proclaimed, I'm a top yogi or a guru, it's the same thing. I've rarely seen where it's a female. Okay.
Mhm.
But where I come from, I'm not looking to, that to follow that flock, so to speak. I walk my
Mhm.
own path, I walk my own beat.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
also take in consideration what I learned from women. And maybe that's where, maybe we're part of this topic is going to go through male dominance and what some of the solutions are, because I know that what I've had to face and taking in this feminine side of me. And many
Mhm.
of us men have been programmed to not touch this. It's like that's taboo, like, hey, don't go anywhere
Mhm.
near that stuff, right? Okay.
Mhm.
When it's totally the inverse, where
Mhm.
communication between males and females, regardless whether it's religion or not, we
Mhm.
understand that females, yes, are more emotional than men, but men,
Mhm.
we have this ability to learn from that. Okay, and I know
Mhm.
many of the men are not going to disagree with, are going to disagree with this. Okay, but what they're looking for, from what I've learned in my at my age,
Mhm.
and it's just, this is just my viewpoint, is that
Mhm.
they engage with us emotionally because they wish to have an emotional response. Okay, you know,
Mhm.
then this is where, if they don't get the emotional response, it becomes dramatic. Because the more dramatic it becomes, well, somewhere along the line, they're going to get an emotional response, right? Okay,
Mhm.
but where, and let's see where this is going to go.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's like the more drama there is, the more the man. Like, I know I detest drama. Don't bring
Mhm.
drama anywhere near me. Okay, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm going to go out the door. Okay, or
Mhm.
if you corner me, it's going to be like the rat in the corner. I mean, I'm going to have a voice to
Mhm.
say. I don't want to push my
Mhm.
own button, right? Okay,
Mhm.
so I've learned to understand that what I need in return is the same thing as what a woman does. Okay, in the sense of
Mhm.
emotional communication. This is
Mhm.
where spirits, or not spirit, but spirituality, or some movements of spirituality, are still pushing the male idiom, right? I mean, let's look at many of the
Mhm.
gods, many of the deities. They're showing in a masculine form, whether or not they got Medusa's head or not. I mean, there's a little bit of in all of these scriptures, all of the different religions, all of the different beliefs. That God's a
All of
male.
the Gary, you have said a very interesting thing that when we talk about religion and all the religious and spiritual movements, we see a male dominant deity
Yes.
or deity, whatever you call it. We always see a male. We don't see a female goddess
Yeah.
in the religion or in any of the
No.
mainstream religions. We don't see
And see,
any female goddess to empower women.
you know what? This is where I
Hmm.
disagree with all of that, because the most
Hmm.
powerful woman of all, and I've said it, and many of those that know
Hmm.
me, is the woman that I put my feet down to. I walk on her every day of my life. Gaia,
Hmm.
this planet. So
Mhm,
I worship this planet. If you want to say it, there's
mhm,
a God that I worship. Okay, but
mhm,
where is it proven? Where,
mhm,
beyond the benefit of a doubt, that God is a man?
mhm.
I've had near
But
death experiences. I can't tell you
but,
God is a
but
man.
mhm. Gary, you're right. I agree. But I'm talking about the mainstream religions. Mainstream
Yes,
religions, we see they present God like a male dominant.
true.
Mhm.
But
And
this is where,
what about? I think we should go to Jackie now
yeah, Jackie,
and
it's
ask
your
her views.
viewpoint on this one.
Well, I was just thinking what you were saying. It's not just God being depicted as the male figure, but
Mhm, mhm,
everyone under him. So there's Jesus and there's Moses and there's I'm not an expert on these things, okay? So I'm just
Hmm.
saying names that because I don't follow anything like that.
mhm,
But all those, when you think of God and everyone under him, I think the
mhm,
majority under him, you would immediately first think of all the males that have been talked of in the Bible.
mhm, mhm.
True.
That's what I said because we don't see any female goddesses or any female figure uh, in the power to as an example for the rest of the women.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
almost like
What about?
it's not until you're outside of that into, the religions of, the Middle Asian countries, in India and the Hindus
Uh,
and things
yes.
like that. And that's where you see a lot of goddesses and a lot of females depicted in their
Mhm,
Yes.
strength that they are, you know.
mhm.
True.
Yes, you're right. We have in the Hindus religion, we see a lot of female goddesses, and it's a good thing. And what about? I think we should ask this question uh, to Stephanie.
Um, it's like to me, it seems like females just play like a supporting role, you know.
Mhm,
in 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 all the in a lot of the religions, you know. When I think they're more than a supporting role. um, but yeah, it it's probably because male dominance has been around for so long that most most people don't know how to you know gather the concept of female in charge. My grandfather, yeah, woman's place was in the home. Boom. They had, their specific duties. The boys had their specific duties. It's just, and never the two shall meet. So,
Okay.
Mm.
What do you think now? Another question is, as Gary was talking about his views, sharing his views about religion and religious part, and another thing comes up is spirituality. Could spirituality, the role of spirituality in shifting the balance of power in the male dominance world?
This, okay, when it comes to spirituality, I think this is where, if we can connect really to the truth of what spirit is, that's within us. Okay, this is not something we find in a religion. This is not something we find in the scripture. We find spirituality within. Once we found spirituality within, we find connection to our higher power. If you want to believe that a butterfly is your higher power, fine. If you want to believe it's a goddess on the other side of the moon, fine. At least you're accepting the fact that you're not a god. Okay? We may be created in the essence of, if we go according to what everything has been told to us through the ages, that we're created in the image of God, then I'm still not a god. Okay? But I have this essence of God within me, because when I find spirit, I find the essence, or what I believe is spirituality, because now I'm connected to life. I'm connected to living in the frequent evolution. I'm connected to loving myself. I'm connected to accepting myself. I'm also connected to knowing what's right and wrong and surrendering when I need to surrender. So this is for me is what spirituality is. You believe in yourself. You don't believe in ego. You believe in self. You believe in your truths, what you see with open eyes, and you're able to decipher through common sense, not with what somebody's told you, with what you see, that allows you to say, I know what's right or wrong because I'm in that connection with self. And I'm in the moment where I'm living in the present moment. Yes, I think about my tomorrows, and I thought a little bit about my yesterday. But that doesn't hold me back from living in the moment. Living in the moment with the essence of spirituality also means I'm grounded. Okay? I'm earthed. And I teach people earthing. I teach the techniques of earthing. I work with the elements of the earth. So for me, knowing how to be grounded, and what really truly grounds me as an energetic being, I find my spirituality. And I find that freedom of, I have the freedom to breathe. I have the freedom to drink water. I have the freedom to walk upon this land. That for me is spirituality.
Now I'm gonna ask this question to Jackie. Jackie, do you think spirituality uh, play its role in shifting the balance of power in a male dominant world?
I can you hear me okay? Because I just had to.
Yes, I can. I
Yeah.
can hear you.
Um, Gee, that's a tough question, isn't it? Because time's gone past. It's like they were so. I'm assuming, and from what I've read, is that everyone was so much more connected than what we are now, and we're just beginning to phase back into that, and regain our spirituality and our connection with the earth and with each other. And I know myself, when I'm walking down the street, and now instead of judging someone, I try and look at them and think that they are me in a different form as such, with different likes and dislikes and passions and knowledge and things like that. I mean, that's not, this is a work in progress, but this is where I'm going with it. But I think once you have that connection, you don't see anybody as unequal to you, or men better or
Mhm.
women lesser or anything like that. So it's just developing that connection and just having respect for everybody. You know,
Mhm.
I just want to touch on something that Barry said earlier, was that about the, you know, women going into being more accepted into military and, you know, male dominated workforces. And I couldn't help but think of, you know, these, yes, the women are accepted into there now, but the stories that come out of there,
Mm,
the
mm.
bullying and the abuse and things like that. So the men are still not accepting it
Mhm.
themselves, you know.
Mhm.
And I have a lot of concerns about that, of women going into male dominated things. And I still think too that women have to really suppress their emotions and feelings, because men will be like, oh, there she goes. You know,
Mm.
there's a woman coming out in her, the crying, the this, the that, the emotional side. So there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of concerns with those kinds of things.
Mhm. I think
So,
it's a very good question. I'm gonna ask this question. The next question is, the men are not accepting it. Is it true in America,
mm,
Stephanie?
Um, more and more men are starting to accept the equality, but there's still a major block of no,
Mhm.
we're we're top dogs. We're going to keep that control.
mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I just think that the only way we're going to be able to correct that is through our children and everything. Teach children. It doesn't matter. You know, if they're male, female, black, white, purple, green. It's everybody is
Mhm.
the same.
Yeah.
We all have
Mhm.
feelings. We all have right feelings. We all have,
Mhm.
there's things I can do that I know Gary can't do, and there's things Gary
Mhm.
do that I can't do. You know, and if we just, get over trying to be, you know, segregated and start working
Mhm.
together, then everything will work out
Mhm.
fine.
Mhm.
Which
Mm.
I'm seeing
And,
people more
okay.
doing more.
Mhm. Now I'm gonna go to Gary. And Gary, are people accepting it? This accepting change? Uh,
Honestly,
I, mhm.
I'm going to say no. The reason I'm going to say no is because I'm aware of the
Mhm.
stories. And
Mhm.
as much as that, yes, there's a woman going into the military, going into a workforce, working with construction workers. There's still a bunch of Cro-Magnon men that don't
Mhm.
understand this, that the human body is to be respected. Or so
Mhm.
where does it come off that I'm doing that job that gives me the right, that because she's a female, that I can heckle her, or I can jekyll her, or I can throw a little slap on the bottom, or something like
Mhm.
this. And I know many men do this, and I disagree with that, because I don't,
Mhm.
and I never will. I consider
Mhm.
myself to be a gentleman. I respect, and I respect women. I respect myself. Okay, there's a
Mhm.
place, there's a time and place when there's an invitation that we
Mhm.
can engage intimately. That's fine. But in the
Mhm.
workplace, some of the stories that have happened with some of the ladies that have been, mentally abused, physically abused. Okay,
Mhm.
it's still as ongoing, and it's still a problem today. And it's not just in the
Mhm.
workforce. I mean, it's happening in households. The
Mhm.
stress of all this COVID and everything going on, what is happening in many of the relationships? You know what? The statistics in the hospital, they're not telling you how many people are being rushed to the emergency because their husband beat them up. Or maybe
Mhm.
there's been cases, there's been ladies that have been killed. So there
Mhm.
is, yes, an issue with this male energy. Okay. And I'm not going to
Mhm.
go into saying it's a toxic masculine. It's a
Mhm.
masculine energy that, yes, it's been programmed wrongly. We've been taught wrongly how to deal with emotions. So,
Yeah, it's a centuries of
oh,
work about centuries of brainwashing, about
yes.
teachings. all the religious scriptures, the textbooks, and everywhere we see it. It's in the culture.
Yep.
It's in the vibes. We have to, if we want to shift the balance of power, then we have to make the world. We have to root it out from everywhere. We have to root it out from the culture, from the society, from the textbooks, from the literature. We have to
Yep.
root it out from everywhere. Only then we would be able to move forward in a time, in a world where it doesn't matter whatever your color is, or whatever your religion is, or
Hmm.
whatever your gender is, you could be equal.
Well, I wholeheartedly believe with you, and I think that many people that are awakening in the sense of the
Mhm,
the changes in the world that are required is that when it comes to love, when it comes to humanity or humans, there is
mhm,
no difference between color, creed, language, what part of the world you come from. We've
mhm,
created boundaries, segregations. We've separated peoples, and we've separated the masculine and the feminine. There's this
mhm,
rise of the goddess movements and the rise of the sacred femininity, the take place where the sacred masculine was, holding on for eons. Well, if we throw the balance of power into one over the other, we're
mhm,
probably gonna end up with the same mess. It's
mhm,
coming together where we can sit down at the table and say, you know what? I honor
mhm,
you as a goddess because one
mhm,
off, I'm not capable of birthing a child. I
mhm,
don't know any man that is yet. I mean, there might be genetically trying to do this, which is a bunch of garbage, but you know what? It's not physically possible or emotionally possible. And
mhm,
I wholeheartedly look at a woman, the strength that it takes to carry a child and then,
mhm,
release that child into the world. My God, us men, we hit ourselves with a sledgehammer and we cry. Okay.
mhm,
I think it hurts a
mhm,
hell of a lot more than the sledgehammer trying to give birth to a living child. Okay. And,
mhm,
to honor a woman and the goddess that she is. Okay.
mhm,
Let's face it, as men, what do we do for the rest of our life? We're looking to
mhm,
find a woman partner. We're looking to find for the majority, we're looking to find
mhm,
a wife. We're looking to have a family. We want to,
mhm,
have the dream. We want to be, you know, the end of our life sharing with our loved ones, or lover.
mhm,
Okay. But
mhm,
we have to come back to these basics again where's the communication today?
mhm,
Texting? You see the
mhm,
people going in the restaurants as couples and they're not even talking to each other, they're just texting. Why go to the
mhm,
restaurant?
mhm,
Why don't you go to one restaurant and go to the other one and text each other back and forth?
mhm, mhm,
We've lost a lot of, I think, the sacredness of what connects us as, couples, as humans, as respect and tolerance. And,
mhm,
to see that as a woman or as a man, nobody can say that you can't do something. Okay. I
mhm,
mean, I mean, if I don't know something that a woman knows, to show
mhm,
me. Okay,
mhm,
watch me. I'll figure a way to do it. And if I wholeheartedly can't
mhm,
do it, I'll say, have at it. It's off to you. Okay. But on the
mhm,
same note, come over to me and I'll show you, what I can do. And the same thing, and sharing
mhm,
these responsibilities, not in a
mhm,
sense of fighting back and forth between the masculine and the feminine and the sacred this and the sacred that movement. It's about humans,
mhm,
connecting females and males together as gods and goddesses, if we want to call ourselves gods and goddesses. Well, then let's come
mhm,
together and create a better world. Isn't that
mhm.
what we want?
Let's
Isn't that
come
what we're
together.
desiring? So,
Yes, indeed. Let's get together and create a better world. And that is, we want, and we all here get together to discuss this topic. Now I'm gonna move to our final and most important question: emotional intelligence. The role of emotional intelligence. We all know that we have, in our previous episode, we have discussed in detail the role of emotional intelligence. Now, could emotional intelligence play its part to shape the balance of power? I'm gonna go to Jackie now.
Yeah, I think so, but I think that a lot of other things have to change to initiate that, to get that going, because, sorry, I'm not sure what you've discussed previously, but, it's from a very, very young age that little boys and girls as well, but more so boys are just oppressed with their emotions. And all through their ages, then their teenage ages, and just to the extent, sit down, be quiet, speak when you're spoken to, all that kind of stuff. And I think unless we're sort of taught at a really young age to be able to express our emotions in a healthy way, then I don't think it can change just yet. And I can't see that entering the mainstream education system anytime soon. So it's all up to us individuals
Oh God, yeah.
to
You
change,
know,
right?
it's got to start in the homes. That's where we have to break the chain, is in the home. I
Yeah.
did that with my children. I said, you're allowed to be mad, you're allowed to be sad, but you can't yell at me, you know, go calm down, then come back and talk to me in a calm, civilized voice,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
and I think I did pretty well. you know,
Okay.
what,
Oh,
what's on?
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go to Gary now and ask his views about emotional intelligence, the role of emotional intelligence in shifting the balance of power.
wow. Okay, we're an emotionally unintelligent species, to be honest.
Mhm,
Okay, when we look
mhm,
at it,
Mm.
mhm,
we've never been really shown this aspect of you know what the truth of an emotion is, other than what the action and reaction of it was. But what about this open communication within? And I think that this is something that's truly lacking, because we're not teaching how to deal with emotions. We're teaching you how to be
mhm,
number one. Okay, we're
mhm,
taking away this essence of spirit, which is spirit plays this balance with emotional intelligence. Because if you have no
mhm,
spirit, you don't have emotional intelligence. You're just an actionary reactionary robot. But where we get into this aspect of our acceptance of emotions, it allows
mhm,
us to have a more open communication, this emotional intelligence that comes forward. This, rather than playing the you did this game and I did that game, I come back to self. Where am I
mhm,
with my emotion? And finding
mhm,
imbalance in it, so that I can now choose what I'm going to engage in. Am I going to
mhm,
engage in a volatile, disruptive communication? Or am I going to step back and breathe and say, you know what? Get yourself
mhm,
together and let's talk,
mhm,
in a mannerism that we can have clarity. But this
mhm,
hasn't been taught to us as skill sets. I mean, we had social studies and we had this and this type of interactions, but this part has
mhm.
never been taught. And like, Stephanie had said, it begins in the home. It truly does. But if
Yes.
we have parents that are emotionally not balanced, I mean, what do we end up
Mhm,
with? Where do
mhm,
we break that chain? And I think where I broke this chain, and I never had this type of an emotional imbalance. I was pretty free with my
mhm,
emotions. If I wanted to cry,
mhm,
my mother let me cry. Believe me, I got bullied, I got beat up, I got my leg broke, I got all sorts of things because I was emotionally connected. If something bothered me,
mhm,
it bothered me. I can't
mhm,
I can't change what I was feeling, and nobody was going to take that away from me. So I still fought with
mhm,
this all the way through. But I had a mother that was very supportive, and then I remember in moments that when I was really something bothering me, she would just grab me by the cheek and she'd say, "It's going to be okay." So
mhm,
that was the softness of emotional intelligence. Sometimes it's not a big phrase it needs. We need just something to let you
mhm,
know that I'm there to listen. Because in
mhm,
today's world, we have a 3-second attention span. Nobody listens to anybody, and everybody runs to the doctor to get a pill to fix the problem. Okay, so by
mhm,
taking away emotional intelligence, well, the corporations and the pharmaceutical industry is making billions of dollars. Antidepressant
mhm,
medications, all of this stuff that sort of try and give you balance to emotional balance, but it's not. All it is masking the existing problems underneath. And in order
Mhm.
for us to get over what holds us back through emotional intelligence, is to embrace our story, to
Mhm.
see where
And
we've.
getting you're right. There's as Stephanie talked about, it starts with the home. When we talk about the education system,
Yeah.
teaching children and giving them knowledge, and it, then there's a very interesting thing comes up that men and women, the girls and boys, they are taught differently,
Hmm.
and because men are taught to achieve something, on the other hand women are taught to be more accepting. That's why we see women are more emotionally intelligent than men.
Hmm.
And now I'm gonna go to Jackie now. Women, the men, girls and boys, they are taught differently. Is it the same there?
Could you say that again? Sorry, Hassan.
Hmm. Men and women, girls and boys, they are taught differently. We teach children differently. Men are taught to achieve goals, to win. On the other hand, women are taught something else.
I
Mhm,
think, and that is in the home as well, not just the education system. It's like
mhm,
we tend to, I know I did that. You treat your boys differently to your girls, and that's through our learned experience, you know, and what we're taught. And I just think that it's going to take a lot of, like Gary was saying, we are dumbed down to every extent. Our food, our water, our pushed
mhm,
medications, the programming on TV, we're all dumbed down so that we're not developing any emotional
mhm,
intelligence. We're not
Hmm.
aware of
mhm,
anything that that we are thinking, are feeling, and it's all that dramaticness that Gary was
mhm,
talking about. You don't, you know, we don't want that
No,
necessarily because
there's the
you want
door.
to be
I'm
able
gone.
to, yeah,
mhm,
you want to be able to recognize that emotional intelligence, have that, so that you can recognize it before it gets to a stage where you really can't talk about it. When you're yelling and
mhm,
screaming, nobody can hear you
Yeah.
anyway, you know, and so you just, it's just against a brick wall. But I definitely do think that we are taught differently, we're treated differently when
mhm,
you know, when we're achieving as well. I know as a child growing up, it
mhm,
was always like, you know, if when I got A's, it was like, oh, Jackie got an A again. It's not like, but my brother, oh, Anthony got an A, you know, like, so there's like, it's an expectation of the boys and their, that was my experience anyway, that
mhm,
he'd done really well and it was expected. But for me, it was just like, yeah, it's good, but you know your place kind of thing,
Hmm.
you know. And so
mhm,
you eventually stop starting to excel, wanting to excel. You know, you have that
mhm,
thing dumbed down in you so that you know. I think I see the
mhm.
same in workplaces now too. If a female gets in a high position in their
Position.
job, that they
Mhm,
are there's more expectation on them because
mhm,
I feel there's more expectation on them to do really well. Otherwise, the men or the women, because women are just as bad in being judgmental and everything. And I think
mhm,
that again comes from media and magazines, and you know, we're
mhm,
judgmental of everybody.
mhm,
I think, you know, women have to, we have this thing that we've got to do even better than men because we will then be
mhm.
again, you know, put down for not
Hmm.
doing even better.
Now I'm gonna go to Stephanie.
Um, I was raised. See, I was raised that you could do anything, and
Mhm,
my big shocker was when I grew up and I found out. Oh, wait a minute.
mhm,
There is a big gender, you know, uh, I didn't join the military because I could go and do what I wanted to do,
mhm,
you know. Um, it's yeah. It starts with us. We just have to consciously say, hey, well, we're not going to be this. closed off people anymore. You know, we have to just, you know, start opening up and recognizing each other. You know, recognizing the goodness in each other and using it instead of,
And
you know.
Stephanie, sorry, what you're saying too is so true. And you find that your relationships with people, like with my children, like once you start becoming emotionally intelligent, your whole, and just aware of the way you're speaking, the way you're holding yourself, the energy that you're giving off, it just changes relationships dramatically.
It changes the whole perspective of the world. It changes your world. Now I'm gonna go. It's very interesting. Another question is very interesting. That expectation and judgment. Does society uh, expect more and judges more uh, from women or towards women?
I think men are expected to achieve more, and you know, if they don't do this certain thing, you know, or act a certain way, that they're put down. You know,
Is it
I
true for
mean,
women?
look, 10 years ago, dad staying home and taking care of kids was not a thing. You know, they were laughed at, you know, and I've noticed there are more and more dads staying home and are awesome at home parents. You know,
What about now, Jackie? Expectation and judgment. Does society uh, have more expectation from women and uh, than men?
Yeah, no, men still have a lot more expectations on them to be providers. I think that's still ingrained in us as women as well. You know, even as much as we want to achieve and do things and be, independent, I think there's still that expectation on men to be working and achieving. But the judgment, I think, as I was touching on before, like there's a lot of judgment still on men and women. And women are really hard on other women from my experience, like because of how we've grown up and not accepting of our bodies and our same being emotional and, if I hear that thing, you got your period or something, that you it just, I can tell you that's one way to drive a woman insane if you say that when she's emotional. But lots of the judgment on ourselves and men, and that's all media driven. It's all, not accepting of ourselves still. We're very hard on ourselves as well, very judgmental on ourselves.
Now I'm gonna go to Gary now. The question I'm gonna change a little bit. I'm gonna change the question that when we talk about, especially men, when we talk to women, when we talk about the male dominance, this question, when we pose this question to the men, they say it's not their fault. The society has expect so much. The society, the culture, the household, the parents and women, they expect so much from men that they have no choice to become dominant. Is it true?
Yeah, I mean, if I look at everything that I've done professionally in life, it's always been the challenge to try and be better than the other man. Okay, not from my perspective, but from what my experiences were, and this dominance that was in there to always try and be, the strongest, and here I am, and even in the handshakes. I mean, my God, some of these guys' handshakes would almost crush my hand at times. It's like,
Mhm,
what do you have to prove to me? That you're,
mhm,
you got more physical strength and things like this, and then
mhm,
this is where I think you were finding we're finding struggles with this. I mean, if I speak for a majority of men, if I speak for myself, I don't struggle with this. Look, emotionally, I know how strong I am. Physically, I know how strong I am. I know I'm in a society that's judgmental, and honestly, I could care. My perspective, I don't care what another one sees in me. Okay, because if I do, it stops me from it stops me from my own freedom. My freedom of choice is to be who I am, dress like I wish, not dress with what is in style, not work with what is the latest in trends. I work to my own belief. Okay, I guess if we can say it that way, in the sense that yes, the male dominance is all around me. I feel it. I go around and you feel the peacock syndrome's coming up and the rooster symbols coming up, and it's like, you know what? Chill a little bit. Okay, that's where I'm coming from. It's just that you like come back down to being in connection with self and understanding that it doesn't need to be a male dominated or even a masculine dominated essence. I mean, even masculine comes dominance through females at times. I've worked with companies and their CEOs, and believe me, my lord, they held just as much dominance as did a man. Okay, so this is where this is not what's needed. We don't need over dominance. What we need is a system, as a society, is to come together as peoples, as understandings, as one love, one world, one choice that allows us to have freedom to grow together rather than try and destroy each other or fight to be number one. But in a consumer driven world, the media portrays it. Look at what it shows for the models. Look at what it shows for the perfumes, the commercials, everything. It's still predominantly pushing through this essence of look at me, where it shouldn't be look at me. It's like, let's look at the world and see it in a broader spectrum. So there's a lot that needs to change, but we can't fix a broken system. We can't patch a broken system. We got to scratch it, start from the beginning, create a new journey. And this is what I love of what we're doing with social media today is that we're bringing awareness that there are better ways, that things need to be changed. It's not going to happen overnight. Okay, there's a lot of things that are not going to happen overnight, but we can't lose faith. And we definitely can't stop from trying to create a better world, not just for you, me, and every woman, but for the children, for tomorrow, to have a better world, a better community, better social structure, where we can feel secure, not just with what we're earning maybe, but also secure with our emotions and secure with ourselves as a human being, rather than walking out in the world that's filled with judgments and pointing in groups and tribes and this is my group and this is my tribe, and what a mishmash.
And
And I can
so
go on and
another
on about that one.
and another question is, uh, are women more intelligent, emotionally intelligent than men? I'm gonna go to Jackie.
Well, I don't know if we're more emotionally intelligent because are we just able to show our emotions so we're more aware of them? Whereas men might be emotionally intelligent for the emotions that are coming up within them, but they may not have as many or show as many. So I wouldn't like to say that we're more emotionally intelligent, but yeah, I'm not too sure about that one but I think we do have a lot of awareness. Women do have a lot of awareness about their emotions, but it's okay to have the awareness of it, but it's more what you were talking about with the emotional management, like just being able to manage those emotions as well. Like that's as important as being aware of them.
So, Stephanie.
Yes. I would say that it goes on individuals, you know, because there's some women that are not emotionally intelligent out there. It's more of an individuals, I'm thinking. I don't think our society is very emotionally intelligent, actually,
Mhm. Mhm.
as a whole.
Our society. Mhm.
Yeah.
We have got a very good comment from Adrian. He has been watching us from the moment we went live. Just read his comment.
Okay, so Adrian is saying, I would say a larger quantity of the population of women compared to men, the way it is supposed to be, as they know they are a creator.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
going to agree with what Adrian just said. And I think that, yes, the majority, for a majority of women, they are more emotionally intelligent in a way, because one, they need to be to carry a newborn life within them, because if they're not,
Mhm.
holy patito, it's going to be a oh, you know.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of emotional changes going on, and I think we as men, we've seen, our women, that I had a, one of my first relationships, and the emotions that she went through, and the changes, and the hormonal, and everything that's going on. And it's
Mhm.
like, I think I learned well from my father. He said, sometimes you just got to sit in the chair, don't say anything, look, nod every once in a while, but just don't say anything, just
Mhm.
ride out the storm, so to speak. Okay. And I know that's sort of opening Pandora's box, but I think, ladies, you can agree with me on this, is that, your emotions are going through a wacky up and down, movement when you're carrying child. And sometimes, yes, in that exchange, in that moment of the month where you're going through your cycles, it can be emotionally sensitive. And if I tied a full
Mhm.
moon into that, well,
Mhm.
experience has
Mhm.
said, like, yeah, you know what, it's a little fragile today. Okay, so the best thing the man can do is learn his
Mhm.
emotions, because
Mhm.
if we don't learn our emotions, we always walk on eggshells. So
Mhm.
and I know I might be speaking sort of, off of a whim on that one, but my
Mhm.
own experiences have shown that I can sense, because I'm sensitive and empathic, I can sense that emotional structure. So when it's
Mhm.
volatile, I walk carefully, because you choose to engage with what you choose to wish to engage with, right? Just make sure
Mhm.
that you got open ears in case you don't miss anything, because if not, it's an
Mhm.
emotional whiplash.
Mhm.
It's
I,
that,
you
I
don't
know?
make
have
eye
to.
contact, don't make eye contact, don't make eye contact.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's like, hey, bah, you didn't hear me. And how
Uh,
many men
Mhm.
will turn around and say, my wife just cold cocked me because I wasn't listening. We won't step out the
Mhm.
door and say that. It's like, no, we don't say our women hit us,
Mhm.
but it does happen. Okay, and
Mhm.
and 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 a lot of this is maybe where we're going with this as well, because I can see this opening up, is how it leads into the relationships between men and women, and where we go with emotions at times. And I think opening up this discussion allows us to see, where we can learn from each other. Okay, and as much as I know nothing. Okay, so honestly,
Mhm.
yeah, it's I know my emotions. I know what
Mhm.
I feel is emotional and emotional balance and emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
Okay, but
Mhm.
I also know when I'm out of my emotional imbalance or emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, because when I'm caught in a trigger, if something's triggered me from a
Mhm.
memory of yesterday, and all of a sudden
Mhm.
I'm not in the awareness, I'm in the yesterday. Now,
Mhm.
I'm more volatile. Okay, so my
Mhm.
emotions are, I'm not in emotional intelligence, I'm
Mhm.
more reactive. Okay,
Mhm.
and learning to work with emotions with women is yes, they're more emotionally reactive than us, because that's the way the upbringing has been brought through centuries. And also the fact is, let's face it, women, and on my perspective, is a woman is more sensitive with emotions. And one of the
Mhm.
things that I've learned from women is that sensitive emotional connection, that is the
Mhm.
tenderness, that is this, let's face it, us men, we love to be cuddled, right? I feel home, if I can say it that
Mhm.
way. Connection to
Mhm.
my mother. And yes, there is a connection to mothers when we as men embrace another woman. I mean, there's a memory there. Okay,
Mhm.
and it's more
And
enjoyable when we're emotionally
I,
intelligent.
I, I agree with Gary that women in this from the sensitive part they are more emotionally intelligent. We can say that
Yes.
because they are more aware of their emotions. They are we can discuss on the management parts emotional how to manage their emotions. It can be a question mark. Some can control their emotions better and the others can, and
Yes.
that's what with the man and also we can question, we can discuss, we can also agree and disagree on the part who whether men or women could implement their emotional intelligence in their relationship. It also be a question mark. Sometimes some women and some men they are more emotional intelligent in their relationship, and the others aren't. And I think we have the through our discussion we have started our discussion from the male dominance, then we discussed about the religious part, then we moved to the spiritual aspect of it, then we discussed in detail about emotional intelligence, that whether men are more emotional intelligent or whether women are more emotionally intelligent. And after having and we have the most interesting question was the judgment and expectation from the society, from men and women. It is different. And I think expectation the most I see the problem is expectation.
Yeah.
From my point of view, I might be wrong, and you guys could agree or disagree with me. Expectations and judgment, they are playing the main role. They are playing a significant role in shifting the balance of power,
Yes.
because men, the reason men have a dominant role in the society is because they have they have more expectations. When you expect something more, then they when they perform more, then definitely they would get an upper hand uh, in house or
But
in the
throughout the ages,
society at the workplace. Mhm,
throughout the ages, Hassan, that's what it's been. We've been taught to be, we're the soldiers. We are,
mhm,
we're the ones that go to war. We're the foragers. We're
mhm,
the hunters. We're the
mhm,
gatherers.
mhm,
And that women
mhm,
were, to welcome us as we came home from our, our tasks, our chores, our wars.
mhm,
If we came home missing an arm, it was, well, that's, what happened, but our woman was there to look after us.
mhm,
But that's yesterday's. And then this is where we keep going wrong, is because
mhm,
we're sending our men and now women to fight wars for others that got a sick ego. Okay. And
mhm,
then, the expectation that, what, I'm the politician, this is my country, these are my soldiers, I'll go over there and fight my war for me. Well, that this
mhm,
is where it's still in this dominance of a controlling factor. And
mhm,
this has got to change. And the only way it's going to change is by these discussions that are going forward and opening up this
mhm,
awareness, saying, you know what, I know I'm a man. You're a
mhm,
woman. Okay.
mhm,
I know I can cook. You can cook. So why don't we cook
mhm,
together? You know,
mhm,
the simplicity of it, where
mhm,
rather than setting the separation of it and saying, well, you cook and I clean, if we
mhm,
just change it just a little bit,
mhm,
okay,
mhm,
and just come back to some of the simplicities, that if we do things together, we can
mhm,
build a better world together.
mhm.
It
We
takes
can
both of
build a
us.
better world. We can build a
I
better world together.
wholeheartedly believe we
Now,
can.
yes, I'm gonna go to Jackie and ask her final views on expectation, judgment, and emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Gary just said, and the we still do have those expectations of men doing the manly so-called things,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
the judgments of everybody. But yeah, I think it just comes down to being connected with ourselves,
mhm,
and knowing that, and just having that, treating everyone with respect. and their uniqueness and what they've got to bring together for everybody. And then things might slowly change. But, you know, as we see, like with, you know, the females that are put into jobs in male-dominated areas, they had more of that masculine side to them anyway. You know, because you don't, you know, you'd see somebody as being weak if they were, you know, your prime minister was a female and she wasn't, you know, a strong character, more the nurturing, loving sort of side, then you wouldn't, I'm guessing, have much faith in that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how other way to express that. But so there's a lot of judgment and expectancy on men still, I feel, and it's going to take a little while to change. But I must honour men, especially I've got quite a few in my life now who are really, you know, honouring women. And I can see that changing with just listening to Gary and Adrian. And there's Steve as well. Like, you know, different people are just honouring women and our connection more, and we're trying to understand each other more. So I have to honour all of us really for that now, trying to shift things. We can see what's wrong.
I still want to open up the doors for ladies. You know, I'm tired of being told I'm a male chauvinist because I'm opening up the door. You know, that's like, please, I mean, it's a pleasure to do so, you know.
And it's lovely. I love that. I opened a door for anyone, for men and women as well. I think it's a courtesy, you know, and
it's a beautiful gesture.
Yeah, it is. I think it is too. It's just a very small gesture, but it's beautiful. It's like smiling to people, you know. It's just being kind and helpful and respectful.
And now, expectation, judgment, and emotional intelligence. Final thoughts, Stephanie.
I think I think I do expect a lot from our society. You know, I have faith in us that we can, you know, turn the tide. You know, I feel like I've changed a couple of males' lives to where they look at females a little bit differently and not so, you know, I'm all powerful being. It's like, yeah, no, we're all the same, you know. And I just have faith, you know. And like I said, it's just you have to do it one person at a time, you know. And it starts with us. Like I said, it starts with us. We have to say, hey, we're not going to be like this anymore, and start changing our behaviors. You know, communication is a big thing. Is the biggest thing. You know, when you're yelling, you're not communicating. When you're being dominant, you're not communicating. You know, you just, you know, communicate.
Speaking of communication, I think I found my next topic for the next week is communication. We are going to talk about, Gary, we are going to talk about communication, the role of communication in relationship, and I found the next topic. And final thoughts, Gary, about expectation, judgment, and emotional intelligence.
Well, I can tell you this. I'm tired of a system that has these expectations on us. That is for sure. And as an anti-conformist, I don't adhere to their expectations. And I will still keep fighting for that. Because if we can overcome the expectations that what society has been put on to men and women, then we have the ability to truly find freedom. And finding the freedom starts with, yes, the ability that, you know what? I don't need to do what the system is telling me to do or to be like, okay? I don't need to be that type of a man. I need to be a human being. And I need to be a human being that allows me to say, you know, I can look at a woman, I can respect her, she can respect me, we can have communications together, and everything else doesn't really matter. No, it comes back to, let's get back to the communications, just like the birds, or who's got the birds going?
Oh, I have a flock behind my. I have an insane amount in the trees behind me, like doves. There's an owl. There's just they're insane.
But, see, this is, you know what I said? This is what Gaia is telling us. This is what Mother Earth is telling us. Open up our ears. Open up our eyes. Open up our hearts. connect back to ground, start to
Mhm.
talk, breathe.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
It starts with a breath, not
Mhm.
hyperventilation. The system, the
Mhm.
societies, it's all about hyperventilation. We're not breathing.
Mhm.
We're masked. We're running from left to right. You know, the 8 hours and do this and do that. And it's like, is that what life is supposed to be? No.
Mhm.
Time to change it.
Mhm. Okay, I think we have discussed in detail emotionally intelligence, the role of emotional intelligence, and expectation and judgment. They are playing the significant role uh, uh, in the male dominance world. And if we have less expectations, less judgment, then we can have a better world.
Oh,
And the next we are going to talk about the next week we are going to talk about the impact and role of communication in our lives, and how could it help, how could it promote emotional intelligence.
yes.
And thank you. I'm gonna thank all of my guests. Gary, he has joined us from Canada. Just my second guest is Jackie. He has joined us mm, from Australia, Gold
Thank you.
Coast, Queensland, Australia, and third guest is Stephanie Ewing. She has joined us from the US, and I'm from Asia, and from different parts of the world, from different continents we are talking, and it's amazing. I think it's the good thing about technology. I love this part of technology, that it has connected all of us together on this
Mm-hmm.
platform. And thank you, Adrian, for your thoughts, for your lovely comments. Thank you, Jesse, for sharing out. And thank you, all of you guys who have joined us and
Thank
who
you.
have been watching us and throughout the whole time. And please keep sharing it in the groups and inviting. Yes, one final announcement. Uh, Everyone who is watching right now, and please add more people, relevant people, like-minded people in the group, in the Love Virus group. We have to spread this love and peace virus, because we need love and peace in this world. There's enough hatred. And thank you guys so much. And I'm gonna see
Thank
you
you.
in the next week. Good day, good night, or wherever
Good
you
day,
are.
good night, good morning.
Good night,
Good night. Good
everyone.
morning.
Bye bye.